The Ohio fallout of Trump's conviction. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. For the first time, a convicted felon is a major party candidate for president. Donald Trump stands convicted of falsifying business records to hide payments aimed at silencing porn star Stormy Daniels, who says she had a sexual encounter with the former president. Trump remains popular in Ohio. He easily won the state the last two cycles. He paved the way for J.D. Vance to win his U.S. Senate seat. And Vance was out front denouncing the prosecution, which he says will backfire on Democrats.
The one thing I will say, Jesse, and I'm hearing from constituents all over the state of Ohio, they're frustrated, they're angry, and they're saying, how can we help? What can we do? They feel so powerless, which I certainly understand because this sham prosecution is happening in New York, so far away from the state of Ohio. The answer is get involved, Jesse.
U.S. Senate candidate Bernie Moreno used the Trump endorsement to win the GOP primary earlier this year. Shortly after the verdict, he called it a dark day for American democracy and said he stands with President Trump. Sherrod Brown and other leading Democrats are largely silent on the conviction, which happened this week. Mike Gonadakis, does the conviction help Donald Trump, hurt Donald Trump in Ohio, or does it even matter?
Here in Ohio, Donald Trump was going to win Ohio regardless of what happened with the verdict. But it is a sad and shameful day here, Mike. You know, no longer do we have the fairest justice system in the nation. The venue should have been changed. It never should have been in New York City there. The judge donated to pro-Biden operations, which is illegal in the state of New York. The DA campaigned on going after Trump. This was a setup from the beginning. And the American people see it, Ohioans see it, and I think it'll help Trump. Not that he needs it in Ohio, but it'll help him win by a larger margin, which more importantly helps Bernie Moreno and the Supreme Court candidates all down the ticket.
So the process you talk about was unfair. The facts of the case, did he hide expenses and the hush money to silence Stormy Daniels, and did he not have the sexual encounter with Stormy Daniels while his wife was home with a newborn baby?
Well, you know, the jury of his peers said he did, so that's the verdict. But at the end of the day, the CNN senior analyst said when this case broke, or the verdict broke, that, you know, never before have we taken federal election law and turned it into state criminal case, not in New York, not to Wyoming, nowhere. This is a novel concept that's happened. Why? Because it's Donald Trump.
Derek, could this backfire on Democrats? Donald Trump raised a lot of money, he says, the hours after the verdict. Could this backfire? Could that energize his supporters even more?
I think, if anything, it's going to energize Democrats to go to the polls. I mean, just because Donald Trump has been convicted and he's now a felon doesn't mean that the folks on the other side of the aisle are going to give up. I think it emboldens the GOP party to support Donald Trump even more for reasons I'm not sure of. But, you know, the bottom line is the verdict is going to be, the ultimate verdict is going to be on Election Day for Donald Trump, whether he's going to be president again or not.
Democrats have been quiet. Sure, I looked at Sherrod Brown right before we started the show. Nothing on Twitter, no quotes, not even saying the justice system worked and we should vote still in November. There was nothing from Sherrod Brown. Why do you think that is?
I don't think there's really any political upside for him to comment on this. You know, he does, depending on how many, it's believed that Trump's going to win Ohio, let's say by 8 points again, if not more, which is popular for people to make that prediction. That's 8% or more of people that Sherrod Brown's going to have to get to vote for him and Trump. And so I don't know that he really gets anything out of it. That doesn't mean that we won't ask him when we have the chance. I'm sure he'll have something to say about it, but we've seen Democrats say things like, we should respect the rule of law, you know, the jury spoke, nobody's above the law and stuff like that. So we'll see.
There are folks, Mike, some in Ohio, other states, who are on the fence. Maybe they're, you know, tepid Trump supporters, and now he's got a conviction under his name. Might that dissuade them to perhaps stay home or to vote for Biden?
I can't speak for every voter in the United States of America, but at the end of the day, I say no. Mike, look, Bill Clinton taught us famously a long time ago, it's still about the economy, stupid. At the end of the day, it's the economy, and it ain't great here in Ohio or across the country. And I think that is we know it's a huge advantage for President Trump, regardless of the outcome of what happened. Look, you know, I'm an elected delegate for President Trump, and I'm going to proudly cast my vote for his nomination in Milwaukee in July. And we're going to work hard to see not not only for him to win Ohio, but those other key states, those battleground states. We think it's going to happen.
So how do Democrats take advantage of this if they want to use this for their campaigns without seeming like they're, gloating or something like that?
Absolutely. I think the Democrats will utilize this for one to fundraise. Both sides of the aisle using this for a fundraising opportunity, but especially President Biden and Vice President Harris. But in addition to that, Mike had mentioned that it's just the economy, but there are so many other things that are at stake right now on the ballot. I mean, when you think about all the wars and all the unrest that's happening around the world, when you think about the border, when you think about, of course, the economy and inflation, these are all things that the American people are going to have to make a decision on. And do they want someone that is going to steady the ship, or are they going to bring someone in that's bringing chaos and dysfunction to the office?
Okay. The long, torturous process of making sure the nation's 7th largest state gets to vote for 2 candidates for president appears at an end. As you may know, the Democratic convention comes after Ohio's filing deadline. That means Joe Biden was in jeopardy of being left off the ballot. In the past, when this has happened, Ohio lawmakers adjusted the deadline with no fanfare. Alabama, a few weeks ago, voted unanimously to put Biden on the ballot. This year, Ohio let the drama play out for 2 months, but now the problem appears solved. Under orders, more or less, from Governor DeWine, lawmakers have passed a bill to put Biden on the ballot in conjunction with a move to ban foreign donations to issues campaigns. Democrats also agreed to nominate Biden virtually before Ohio's deadline. Andrew Tobias, this has gone on for 2 months. There's been no movement on it. What finally prompted lawmakers to say, let's fix this like we fixed it twice before?
So specifically on the Biden piece, it's pretty clear to me from my reporting that the governor calling the special session basically forced things back to the table. We had Jason Stephens announce last week that he's basically moving on. And now, about 9 days later, the bill passed. And so part of that is that the DNC acted on Monday to basically administratively address it by scheduling like a Zoom pre-convention kind of thing. But the fact is that lawmakers passed the bill after, just about a week ago, saying that it was dead in the water.
But this is only a one-time fix. This has happened now 3 times, Andrew. Why didn't they make a permanent fix? Make it 65 days permanently instead of the 90 days?
I don't have a good answer for that, but maybe it's something they think they can trade on in the future. It's the kind of thing that I feel like if you were to sort of explain it to your average person, that it doesn't really make that much sense. So I honestly don't have an answer for you on that.
Democrats, did they give up a lot by banning these foreign contributions to issues campaigns, which Democrats said were illegal anyway?
Well, I wanted to go back to your previous question about whether it was a good decision or what was the answer, and the answer is that the reason why they didn't do a permanent ban is because it's politics. They want to be able to use this in the next 4 years or in subsequent campaigns to work their advantage for their own party.
Mike, the foreign campaign donations, why is that a big deal? The Election Commission in Ohio says it's illegal anyway. You can't give to an issues campaign if you're a foreign national, they say. It's not happened that much.
Yeah, well, as we all know, no disrespect to the Elections Commission, but they have no teeth. They don't do anything. And, you can do anything you want, and the Elections Commission can't stop it. But what the legislature clearly did was say it's illegal, and it should be. Look, I'm old enough to remember in 2023, Democrats, the media, were so upset that an American citizen, happened to be an Illinois billionaire, was giving money to us. But they say nothing when $10, $15, $20 million comes from this Swedish guy to impact our way of life here. Let's level the playing field here a little bit. Let's ban it all, and let's just let Ohioans go to the ballot box and make a decision.
Republicans do the same thing, and we all know that.
We don't
right?
have any
We all
Swedish
know
guys
that.
in there.
We all know that.
Does it ban foreign contributions to super PACs who then might support an issues campaign? Do we know?
The law they passed describes indirect contributions, and there's a definition for that, but I don't know what that means in reality. I know that these types of organizations have lots of lawyers. They have compliance departments. And so I don't know that they wouldn't just figure a way to get around it just by changing the organization. But there is something about indirect contributions in the law.
Yeah, and Mike, I don't think the law was going to go into effect. My personal opinion, because I think the ACLU or someone's going to file a lawsuit come Monday or whenever the governor signs it in Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Columbus, and the TRO will be issued, and off we go.
The governor calling the lawmakers back into session, a rare use of his bully pulpit. Why doesn't he use that more often, Mike? For other things, gun safety things he was passionate about, for ethics reform after House Bill 6. He chose this issue.
Yeah, I think he'll have to answer that question. But, look, the governor, this governor, that is, he's very sensitive to the separation of powers. He doesn't comment on legislation until it gets to his desk, always. He has opinions, but he waits. And I think he wants to be sensitive to that. There's a role of the legislature, the executive judicial branch, of course. And I think that's why he doesn't do it, my personal opinion. But, if you overplay your hand too much, you're never going to be able to get anything else. He's got another capital budget and an operating budget to get through before his term ends. So he's got to work with these people.
Again, it boils down to politics. The House and the Senate are not getting along. Everybody knows that. And this was an issue that he felt that he needed to bring his executive power in to literally force the vote to get these legislators to act.
Were lawmakers happy to come back to session this week, Andrew?
I mean, I thought it was really nice outside this week, so I'm sure there are other things they might have preferred to do, but I also live in Columbus and I like being here, so maybe they did too. I don't know.
Did it really force their issue? We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but it seemed like they were prompted to act and got it done.
Yeah, so on the ballot funding part, I'm just not so sure about whether that would have happened without the special session. People tell me they were working on it behind the scenes anyways, and it would have passed, but I've just come to have low expectations for the House and the Senate cooperating on things, so I don't know, but the fact is that they met and they actually got it done.
Does it have how much of an impact will it have on we talk about the no foreign contributions issues campaign, but there are some changes in the procedures of getting campaigns and issues campaigns going. Do we know yet what kind of impact it's going to have on future campaigns, getting them launched?
It remains to be seen. I think the courts are going to weigh in. We're going to see if this actually goes into effect, and I just think we're in a gray period right now. Not sure. It's hard to say.
Yeah. All right, 6 years ago, FBI agents raided the home of then House Speaker Cliff Rosenberger, and he quickly resigned. Then, nothing happened. He was never charged. Meanwhile, Rosenberger rival Larry Householder was convicted of bribery and is now doing 20 years in federal prison. Well, now federal prosecutors have notified Rosenberger that he is no longer a target or subject of an investigation. Rosenberger, who has professed his innocence from the beginning, says it feels good to be finally vindicated of all charges. 6 years, Andrew. That's a long time. Do we know why it took so long?
There's a lot of things we don't really know about this, just because had it come to trial, there would have been evidence that was presented. We would know more about the theory from the FBI in the first place, why they were looking into this. But it's been pretty clear that there hasn't really been anything going on with this investigation. There was the initial search that took place, and that went public largely because they eventually came to the State House. They were talking to people there. They took evidence out of state office buildings and stuff like that. Haven't heard a lot since then. So I don't know that we have a good answer. Maybe at some point we'll find out, but we don't know that right now.
6 years, that's a long shadow. And then you look at what's happened in between. One of Rosenberger's successors is in jail now.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about 6 years of anyone's life, whether you're doing something productive or not, I mean, it's just a long time to be waiting to know whether you are going to be convicted of a crime or not. So good for him that he's not no longer a subject of an investigation. But yeah, it's sad that 6 years of any person's life would have to go in limbo like that.
Mike, you're an attorney. Was this fair? Now, there was some evidence of a cozy relationship between Cliff Rosenberger and the payday lending industry, trips he had taken and things like that. But obviously no charges filed, no convictions, certainly. Was this fair to him to go through this?
Certainly it wasn't. And if Cliff was a Democrat speaker, I'd say the same thing. This is bizarre what has happened in 6 years of his life. Now, look, he publicly stated a couple days ago that he's in a much better place in his life today, mentally, physically. He's living his best life ever. So, to go through this, and I don't know what it's like to be under a cloud of suspicion for 6 years by the federal government. But at the end of the day, Cliff is standing taller and stronger today than he was back then. And in his own words, I think a lot of people owe him an apology, though, in this town, because they convicted him without any evidence.
Andrew, this ties back to Householder because there was evidence presented in that case that Householder perhaps leaked this information to the feds to try to get Rosenberger to resign to clear his path to becoming speaker.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen ever since then, because it basically triggered a speaker's race that eventually resulted in Larry Householder becoming speaker. He obviously is now in prison, and then there's a speaker drama that's going on right now. So I think of Rosenberger as basically being the last time that the Ohio House actually had stable leadership, and so it was a real landmark for him to resign. Things have changed a lot since then.
He has no recourse, Derek. Can't get back all those attorney's fees. I'm sure he paid tens of thousands of dollars.
I'm not sure how much he paid in legal fees, but it wasn't cheap. And so, yes, there's no recourse. You can't get that back.
Another former speaker got one of these letters and then came back and became House Speaker again. Of course, that was Larry Householder. Any chance, Mike, that Cliff Rosenberger tries again for at least to run for office?
I think his quote was, "You never say never," but he's perfectly happy where he is right now in his life.
Yeah.
So.
Could be the Rosenberger comeback. History can repeat itself. Anyway, state lawmakers may tweak the state's new legal marijuana law. With the recreational sales beginning in a matter of weeks, a Senate bill would impose some new rules. It would prevent anyone under 21 from buying Delta 8 THC products. It would put new regulations on home growers, and it would ban smoking or vaping cannabis in any public area where tobacco smoking is banned. Mike Konadakis, is this going to move forward? We've been hearing about changes to the voter-approved law since it was approved.
Well, if you look at the legislative calendar, I'm not sure any new initiatives are going to get across the finish line between now and December 31st. They're going to go on break at some point here, come back a little bit in the fall, and then lame duck. So something could happen. You could attach it to a bill, but not to get in the weeds here. But at the end of the day, this bill does not circumvent the will of the people. Unfortunately, the voters voted, and we have pot here. But what this does is protect our kids, as you said, Mike. Where you can't smoke pot in restaurants, schools, libraries, churches. We're not going to let you do that because you can't smoke cigarettes in there now either. We're going to protect kids from Delta 8, and we're going to look. If you want to grow pot, you're allowed to. You voted for it, but you're going to register because you're not allowed to sell pot out of your backyard. Okay, look, you can grow it. You want to smoke it, that's fine, but we don't let you sell booze out of your backyard, cigarettes out of your backyard. We got to have some safety standards in there so we don't just have this Wild West in our state.
Derek, are these reasonable additions to the law that voters approved?
I would say that they're reasonable, but we really need to add to this bill to make sure that the folks that were convicted of selling weed that are serving jail sentences, long jail sentence right now, have some sort of recourse because this is now illegal in our state. There are plenty of businesses that are making money off of cannabis. So I think that we need to definitely look at the social justice part of this.
Andrew, businesses in the industry, in the legal marijuana industry, they would want the Delta 8 THC products regulated more carefully, right?
Yeah, I guess it basically is a competitor to them. So, if you can buy it at the gas station, why go through the trouble of going to the licensed dispensary across the street? So, yeah, I imagine that they would be interested in seeing this go through.
So what was the reaction, Andrew, at the State House? Does this have any chance, even if timing wasn't a factor, does this have any chance of passing?
I mean, similar proposals have been made since last December. There hasn't really been significant legislative process on the issue or progress on the issue, and so maybe it's something that would be jammed through in lame duck. Often we see a flurry of legislative activity after the election, so maybe it's something that's happening there. But we haven't seen much movement, even with Governor Mike DeWine. Maybe he should have called a special session for them to deal with that because they haven't done a whole lot.
Now, you can't smoke marijuana or vape marijuana or cannabis in areas where tobacco smoking is not allowed. But you can smoke at a park now. I mean, I smell plenty of cigar smoke on the Olentangy Trail. So it's not banning it. You can't drink a beer on the Olentangy Trail, Mike, but this doesn't say anything about that.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's what the regulators at the department or at the legislative level need to figure out, because look, we have this new law, it's in our Constitution, but what does it mean? And we want the men and women we elect to make sure that we're doing this the right and safe way. It's not going to be banned. You got to go back to the ballot to do that if you want to do that, but they just need to make sure that we're putting our kids first. We're putting our at least to have some semi-balanced way of life. The scariest thing, Mike, is when you're driving down 315 and you smell marijuana, the guy driving next to you. That's what scares the bejesus out of me.
Well, there could be guys who have had a beer driving down 315.
That too.
As well.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Dirk, lawmakers waiting to see how this plays out. Maybe they're waiting to put rules in place after 6 months when they see how this works, where the problems are.
I think that they are definitely trying to see where things go, but this legislature is is dysfunctional right now. It's not doing much, so you're not really getting the debate that you would normally have in normal sessions, where you're actually debating what's good for the people.
The homegrown people brew beer in their garage, Andrew. They don't have to sign an affidavit every year that they're not going to sell it to their neighbor down the street. But this is the whole different ballgame.
I mean, people view it as being different. It's interesting that kind of my perception as a member of my generation is that they're really not that different. But I know that there's very persistent views on it that kind of, exist in our society. So, but I don't, there would be people who would argue that it's very similar.
Are we still going to see sales in mid-June as some have predicted, do we think?
I think so. I don't know if it's going to be voluminous in every county, but I think you'll see it.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Ready or not, here they come.
I think the biggest problem is going to be the long lines and finding a parking space outside of these dispensaries, the medical dispensaries, which will be first up. Anyway, our last topic, the Columbus School Board has seen its share of controversies over the years, and the tradition continues. The board is considering a plan that could close up to 20 schools. That's controversial enough. But school board member Brandon Simmons caused outrage for his role in the creation of a school closing campaign strategy document. The strategy included using racial dynamics to counter teachers' union opposition, playing media favorites, and using loud equipment to drown out opponents when they hold news conferences. Simmons says other board members helped craft the document. They deny that. Some have called for Simmons to resign. This week, the board voted unanimously, including Simmons, they voted unanimously to censure Simmons. Derek Clay, what does this do to the school closing process, which everyone agrees has to move forward because there are just too many near-empty buildings?
Well, it raises several questions. This memo that was leaked, apparently, authored by Simmons, was not wise to do in the first place. There are ways in which you sit down and negotiate with the labor unions. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but doing it in a manner where you're putting racial and derogatory language in, tactics that are clearly not of the character of the school board and the administration is just a rookie. I won't even say a mistake. It was just a dumb thing to do.
Is it that, Mike? He's a very young person, Mr. Simmons. He's, I think, 23. New to the board, newly elected. Is it just a rookie mistake, or does it reflect, in your opinion, the whole board and the administration?
Well, I think it's a reflection on him, but he is a member of the board. Whether he be 18 or 80, he's an adult. He's a grown man. And is he naive? Absolutely. Apparently, according to the memo, I don't know him. But at the end of the day, your age doesn't give you a get out of jail free card, so to speak. He did this. He's on the board, and he speaks for the board as an elected board member. Look, moms and dads in the city of Columbus need to elect better candidates. That's what it comes down to for school board. And at the end of the day, attitude reflects leadership. Our $1 billion budget. Schools are struggling. The truancy rate is at an all-time high in Columbus Public. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but we have major problems in Columbus Public Schools.
Yeah, I can tell you that just knowing the administration of the Columbus City Schools, they are super professional. Dr. Chapman is top notch. She is leading this district in a great way, and this young man. I mean, hopefully he learns from this. But
should he have resigned? Do you think?
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
But a censure it's something anyway. Andrew, you've covered your fair school boards, as have I. Why do they generate so much controversy? Why are they so, ripe for this kind of stuff?
I mean, they're just very close to the people that they represent. It's a form of local government that everybody's affected by, especially if they have children. So, it's clearly passions run pretty high when they involve schools. And something I want to say about this is that I don't cover the school board, but I just know that, or I'm amused by the fact that if he's going to think these things, that he put them into writing. So I think maybe the takeaway is if you're going to have an evil plan, you shouldn't write it down. Well,
that's part of what you were saying, the rookie mistake, perhaps. Even if this stuff's being talked about, putting it in writing is never a good idea.
Never. You should never do that. And even if you have some thoughts around or strategy as to how you want to deal with the issue, you should talk it through with your board. But at the same time, you should also talk it through with some other folks that have some experience in how to lay things out.
Yeah, run it by your partner, for instance, before you start talking to the board. Anyway, it's time now for our final off-the-record parting shots. And Mike Gonadakis, you're up first.
Lieutenant Governor John Husted announced today that 190,000 jobs available right now for Ohioans. 56% of them pay over $50,000 a year, and there's health care involved with that too. You know, for those that are struggling, get to ohiomeansjobs.com and find yourself a good paying job.
All right, Derek.
The zone-in process is underway. There will likely be a vote on this in July. The public comment period is happening right now. This is going to dramatically change how our zoning laws are affected here in the city of Columbus.
That is a controversial issue. And Andrew.
This is not a Columbus issue, but a few people were cited this week for vandalizing the 7-foot-tall pink flamingo in Parma, which is a recent addition to the city, but it's a beloved one. So I'm glad the flamingo's okay, and I hope that they get to the bottom of the case.
You don't know what they have against the flamingo?
I don't know who could.
Just hijinks. Anyway, our All Sides talk show on 89.7 NPR News and on digital starts a new series this week. Anna Staver is continuing her Untangled series, and for the next 6 weeks at 11 o'clock on Mondays and also on the podcast, you'll be looking at immigration, diving deep into why it's a big issue and what it all means both for immigrants and for the state of Ohio. So check it out wherever you get your podcast, Untangled or All Sides Mondays on 89.7 NPR News. That is it for Columbus on the Record for this week. Continue the conversation online. We're on Facebook, and you can watch us anytime at our website, wosu.org/COTR. We're also on YouTube and the PBS video app. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.